Go ahead.
You ready to go?
I thought I told you.
She's in charge, so I had to ask. My name's Peter Teitelbaum. I'm the chairman of the Town of Wareham Board of Selectmen. And today it is my privilege and honor on behalf of the Town of Wareham to welcome the Secretary of the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs to our town to announce the awarding of grants relating to coastal and storm mitigation, as I understand it. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Matthew Beaton. He serves as the head of no fewer than 6 different environmental, natural resource, and energy agencies, which include the Department of Environmental Protection, Department of Public Utilities, Department of Energy Resources, Department of Conservation and Recreation, and the Department of Agricultural Resources, as well as the Department of Fish and Game. Massachusetts has, in its wisdom, combined energy and natural resources and the environment into one department. And in doing these things, Massachusetts, unfortunately, unlike our leadership in Washington, understands that these things are all interrelated. And I'm very proud to be a citizen of Massachusetts and to know that we have the foresight to do these things in concert with one another. Today, the Secretary will announce a number of grants to different municipalities. And with us today, we have several people from our legislature. We have Representative Stephen Howitt from Rehoboth and Swansea. You hit on me. Senator Mark Pacheco. Senator Pacheco recently returned from Austria where he was delivering a speech right in the midst of the withdrawal from the Paris Accords. So it's kind of ironic that they actually had to wait till he was out of the country to do that in Washington. Representative William Strauss from Mattapoisett. Our own Representative Susan William Gifford. Representative Randy Hunt from Sandwich. From Senator Vinnie DiMacedo's office, we have Lance Lambrose. Where's Lance? Oh. You can come up. You can be here by proxy.
I'm taking pictures.
Oh, okay.
Just watch the camera behind you.
And we also have Weymouth Mayor Robert Hedlund. So I think I've said enough. I'd like to turn it over to the Secretary to describe these grants and the awards. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. And I will try to make my remarks as brief as possible because I want to afford everybody that's up here the opportunity to share a few words. But it is a great honor for me to be here representing Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito on what for us at EEA is a very exciting day. Because a little less than a year ago, Governor Baker reaffirmed his commitment to a changing climate and a recognition of the fact that our climate is changing. And he really put a strong marker in the ground by signing an executive order related to climate change, particularly focusing on the great work we're doing on the mitigation side, but equally as important, the work that needs to get done on adapting and becoming more resilient to a changing climate. And that is what this grant program that we are here to celebrate today is all about. Only about 2 months ago, a little over 2 months ago, I was standing on the Bridge of Flowers over Shelburne Falls announcing this grant program. And in that short time frame, we are here today to announce the awardees of these grants. And that is, I don't know, I haven't seen government work that fast in a very long time. And all that great work I have to thank from our office, our climate director, Katie Theoharides. She's done a great job stepping in, being really the first director of climate change in the office at EEA, and is really, this grant program is her brainchild, and it is something that is truly remarkable that in its first issuance of an RFP, to have 71 communities step up and respond and be part of the program is truly phenomenal. I've never seen a program get such an overwhelming response. And quite honestly, it was more than we thought we would ever see. So what's really exciting about this program, we thought we were going to be able to do about half of the communities that came forward, half that number, but we're very excited to announce that over the next 2 years, we will be setting aside and releasing to our communities $1.2 million to fund our municipal vulnerability plan. And what that really means is it is a stepping stone for these communities. As we look, I have the list of communities here in front of me. I have all the way west is Adams, and all the way east is Gosnold, and it's really, that is really a true indication of what a snapshot of the Commonwealth we have. A huge variability in communities, and the really interesting part about it is the diverse set of circumstances each community faces. Every community is different. Every community is going to face different challenges. That's why this program is so important for us to partner with, to provide the grant monies, but equally as important, to provide the technical assistance. There will be over 250 planning type consultants ready to work with our communities to help in IDing that very vulnerable infrastructure and the high hazard areas that are most likely, in those critical pieces of infrastructure that are most likely to be vulnerable to a changing climate, identify what those pieces of infrastructure are, and then be able to start planning accordingly, come up with an adaptation plan for the municipality that is going to fit in large part with a statewide climate adaptation plan. And the efforts of the communities, we can't thank you enough for stepping up and being part of this in its infancy. It is truly a testament to the importance of this program and to the great work that you do on the municipal scale, because this is the type of partnership it's going to take. We saw, a pretty volatile week relative to climate change last week on the national stage, and that just speaks to how much more important it is for Massachusetts to continue to show leadership and to continue to show the rest of the United States how real climate change is and what's possible. And we could not do that without the partnerships of our municipalities. So to all of you who are here with us today, we can't thank you enough for stepping up. And I just wanted to point out really quickly, I'm not going to read all 71, but I did want to acknowledge the communities that have representation here. We have folks from Carver, Falmouth, Marion, Mattapoisett, Milford, New Bedford, Rehoboth, Sandwich, my hometown of Shrewsbury, and our selectman Jim Kane is here, Swansea, Wareham, and Weymouth. And again, thanks to all of you for all of your great work and for being partners with us. And now the real work is ahead, but we very much look forward to continuing our partnership with you. And on that, I would like to call up our next speaker, the local senator for the area and a great partner with us at EEA, Senator Mark Pacheco.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary, to you and to all of the colleagues in government that stand here today in this gorgeous, beautiful day here at the gateway to Cape Cod in the town of Wareham, which I'm very proud to represent. Thank you for being here, and thank you for choosing this wonderful location to make these announcements, because this community, just like so many along the coast, is a community that is potentially very vulnerable to climate change and to sea level rise, and the need for planning for our future and planning for these communities is essential as we move forward. The Secretary didn't mention it, but the bond funds that are part of funding this particular initiative and so many others that will be funded throughout the next couple of years came about as a result of an environmental bond bill that we passed a few years ago, a $2.2 billion environmental bond bill, back when now Mayor of Weymouth, was a senator, and back when the secretary was sitting on that conference committee, doing the hard work of legislating and looking at what we needed to do to prepare ourselves in the future to have the bond authorization for administrations going forward to deal with issues like this. One other issue I think is very important today as we do this, because it's important when we spend the tax dollar, we understand why it's being done, not only because of the results, hopefully, that will take place, but also the process. When we negotiated a statewide bill, the Energy Diversity Bill, which is in the process now of being out for procurement, the procurement process for engaging 1,600 megawatts of offshore wind, hydroelectricity, and some other initiatives for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. One of the things that we were not able to get in that bill, but we felt very strongly about, in particular on the Senate side and the administration, was a piece of legislation called the Comprehensive Adaptation Management Planning legislation, which would put into state statute a mandate for planning, working across agency to do what we're really talking about doing here today. And because of the work that was done behind the scenes, work that was done with the Minorities Leader's Office, with the governor, with the secretary, we were able to get that executive order filed that took major components of what we call the camp legislation. And even though it is not law right now, it is law in as much as it's here in terms of the executive order. Just the other day at the legislature, the Joint Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Agriculture released that camp legislation again this year. Sent it over to the Senate. It is now before my Committee on Climate Change, and we will be working on that legislation to get it out and try to get it adopted in the Senate as soon as possible to get it over to the House. And we look forward to working with my House colleagues and the executive branch to get that bill passed into law, so that not just Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito, but 10 years from now, whoever the governor and lieutenant governor happens to be, that they would be working with the framework that is codified in state statute, so that we will be continuing to work on this very important and critical work that we do relative to resiliency and climate adaptation. So it's an honor for me to be here as the senator that represents this district, and as somebody that has been working on these issues for a long time. It's nice to see the beginning of this initiative to add to so many other things that we're doing. And my final word is that it's great for us to celebrate this today. It's great for us to say, and it's true that Massachusetts is one of the leaders with California in climate policy. And it's great for all of us to sign on to goals or aspirational agendas. It is yet a very different thing to pass meaningful, actionable items in the legislature that continues to move us forward to meeting those requirements set forth in the statute. So as we announce these grants today, let us recommit ourselves, both the executive branch and the legislative branch, to get back to the State House over the next few months and to get about the business of getting other actionable items passed in the legislature that will actually ensure that when we meet our climate goals, the requirements that are part of state statute. Because if we don't do that, if we don't pass new statute to do that, we will not meet our 2020 requirements. We will not meet our 2030 aspirational goals. So we need to do that together to ensure that our requirements will become a reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Pacheco, and thank you for your leadership on these very important issues. I just wanted to take a moment. I forgot two great partners that are also here with us when I rattled off the list. City of Cambridge and the City of Lawrence is also here with us, so thank you very much for your presence. Next, I would, as you heard the senator say, I am a former member of the legislature, so this is really kind of fun for me because these are all my friends back here. So it's a lot of fun to be here, particularly with the hometown girl and a good friend, Representative Sue Gifford.
Well, thank you very much, Secretary Beaton. It's hard going from, hey, Matt, what are we voting on, to good morning, Secretary Beaton, but credit where credit is due. Thank you for all you do. We're glad to have you. Welcome to everybody. Welcome to Onset. What a beautiful village in the town of my hometown of Wareham. Before I make a couple remarks, I also did want to acknowledge Wareham's town administrator, Derek Sullivan, is present, as well as our Director of Planning and Community Development, Kenneth Buckland, is here. So what I want to say is a big, heartfelt thank you to the Secretary and the Baker-Polito administration. These times are tough, and our cities and towns need every bit of help that we possibly can get from any source possible. And the Baker-Polito administration once again is reaffirming their commitment to do everything they possibly can to assist our cities and towns with issues that are very, very important. And climate change and the effects related to that is something that's very important, and we have to focus our attention on that particular issue. There are many others as well, but what this MVP grant does is helps our local communities identify for themselves, utilizing tools and resources and data and also the financial assistance, the issues that need their attention in order to prepare for the future. So the issue of local control is one that I know here in Wareham we feel very passionate about, and I know that most of my colleagues, if not all of my colleagues, although I really can't speak for them, but also agree that our cities and towns, we're on the front line. We know what our communities need. And so when these types of grants are made available to us, we are so appreciative and can't thank the administration enough. And again, Secretary Beaton, for your leadership and for being here in my hometown of Wareham, the village of Onset. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Next up, I would like to introduce another great friend to the Baker-Polito administration, Representative William Strauss.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be among those who get to speak today and give some context to the significance of what Secretary Beaton has announced with regard to these municipal grants. I also am just privileged to stand here with some of my legislative colleagues and probably more important friends, as Secretary Beaton made reference to, which gives you who may not be familiar with day-to-day context that we have, some sense of how working relationships regardless of political party, make a difference here in Massachusetts, and we're very proud of that as we see a different and not helpful way that sometimes in Washington occurs. So, as people have made reference to already, the states and local governments around the country have learned a lesson in the last week that dealing with human influenced or caused, however you want to define it or describe it, climate change is very important. For those of us who sit here in the coastal communities, we see it right away, whether it's more frequent and more severe storm events at any time of the year, the impact on our habitat out in Buzzards Bay, the impact on our shellfish populations. You can see it years ago. You could be on Buzzards Bay and you'd bump into lobster traps no matter what you did. They're not there anymore, and that's because of just tiny changes in water temperature. So these grants are significant, nevertheless, in helping the communities who have to cope with what's going on out there environmentally and in the natural world, deal with this problem. So the fact that the governor has made a commitment to help municipalities is significant. I'll close by doing something very unfair because, as has been indicated, Matt's a good friend of ours. We serve with him in the House. I just heard him groan, and he's trying to think, what's he going to do now? In the environmental bond bill that the senator referred to, one of the measures that we got to include, it was I and some others along the 13 communities that border Buzzards Bay, and then the senator, in terms of his role in the conference committee, included a program for the water quality monitoring, which the 13 communities team up for in Buzzards Bay. That's important on this climate change issue because it gives us an ability to assess what's happening with storm runoff, what's the impact on the shellfish beds, what's the impact to the environment itself. And this is government in the round, it's in the open, this is how it's done, everyone gets to see it. And we're asking for a modest $100,000 next fiscal year out of your bond allocation. And I don't need a commitment now, there's time, but I have no doubt that the administration will continue to do, in all sincerity and seriousness, what it's done in being sensitive to these environmental issues. And let me say, in a totally nonpartisan way, that's taken some guts for the governor in the last week, and I think it's only fair to acknowledge that. Those of us in the Democratic Party, I knew it had to happen, we'd say people should stand up and speak for what's right, and when that happens, you have to acknowledge it, and the governor did that in the last week in maintaining the state's commitment to the Paris Accords. So we thank the administration for that, or I do, and just appreciate that I had a chance to be a part of this today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Next, I would like to introduce to you another great friend and classmate of mine from the legislature, Representative Stephen Howard.
Thank you very much. What a beautiful, beautiful day here. It's nice to give my umbrella a break. I'd like to thank our rep and our senator for hosting this beautiful event, and of course thank Secretary Beaton and all his staff and departments. They are very accessible to all of us in the legislature. Anytime we have an issue or we need something, there's always someone there. They get back to you right away. I'd also like to acknowledge Colleen from Swansea and Leanne from Rehoboth, who made the trek here to accept the grants today, and congratulations to both of you. It was exciting to see two of my towns that I represent on the list here today. So again, the Baker-Polito administration, as they do with everything, it's all about cities and towns and helping us wade through all the issues that we have. And fortunately, both of them were selectmen prior to becoming the governor and the lieutenant governor. And I think that makes a very big difference in knowing the idiosyncrasies and the problems that cities and towns have, especially with money and the tight budget that we do have going into next year. So I want to thank you all for being here today, and thank my colleagues, and especially Secretary Beaton. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. And next up, another classmate and, of course, a good friend, Representative Randy Hunt.
I knew this was going to be a really big day because for the last 3 days I've seen on CNN that they have a countdown clock coming down to this meeting. Well, I want to thank Secretary Beaton, everybody involved, and of course the administration for taking an active role on these issues and not making it a partisan political argument, but looking at the facts and dealing with the facts. I live in Sandwich, but I represent constituents in Plymouth, Bourne, Sandwich, and Barnstable. And every time we have a nor'easter come through, one of the usual suspects is the parking lot down at Horizons in Sandwich, where the news trucks come in to watch that beach at Town Neck get more and more eroded by these storms. We see that as a problem along the entirety of the coast of Cape Cod Bay. My district runs from the Plymouth-Bourne town line on Cape Cod Bay all the way out to Sandy Neck Point and the lighthouse. So we're very sensitive to what's happening here. In our town in Sandwich, we have had a great deal of work going on to identify the vulnerable areas between Route 6A and Cape Cod Bay. That work is going to be bolstered by this grant, allowing us to finish that work and get to the point where we have identified what the problem areas are, prioritize them, and now would be in the position to ask for assistance and help funding the projects that we need to have done to make this work. So I appreciate CZM, everything that you do. I appreciate the Director of Climate Change, Katie. I don't know if I had your 13-letter last name, I'd try and read it, but we'll say Katie. And the Secretariat and the administration for everything that they do for us. So thank you for allowing us to be here and have a brief moment to speak with you.
Thank you very much, Representative. And you can see why with that representation that no matter what the party is, we're really able to get things done here in Massachusetts, and that's due to the collaboration between the administration and the great partnership with the legislature. And it makes me proud to live in Massachusetts because we can actually get great things accomplished because of that. So very, very big thank you to all the legislators for being here. And our next speaker is another former legislator, but someone who was still a great partner to the administration and someone who is a valued partnership on the municipal level now. And that person is none other than Mayor Headland from Weymouth. Mayor?
So, first I want to thank Secretary Beaton and his staff for all your great work on this issue and others, and also for the opportunity of allowing me to get out of the office for a couple hours and visit a location, even though I've lived my whole life an hour away. This is the first time I've set foot in Onset, I believe. So thank you for that. It's also great to see so many of my old legislative colleagues, former legislative colleagues. And the type of event like this, and I've been to a few since I've been mayor now for a year and a half, I keep my remarks in direct proportion to the size of the grant, so I'm going to be very brief today. Just kidding, just kidding, just kidding. It's very welcome, very much appreciated. Joining me for the ride down is Frank Singleton, who has a long resume, and he was kind of Mark Pacheco before Mark Pacheco was Mark Pacheco. He's someone who's been on these issues and is our resident expert in Weymouth on global warming, coastal resiliency. He's been at the University of Lowell and is a very valuable member of our Conservation Commission, and I appreciate his work on this issue. He is actually going to be present tonight at a seawall meeting that we are having, and I once represented a district with 8 communities, all coastal. These type of issues that this grant seeks to address was something that I was keenly aware of in that role, and we've been a little bit behind the curve as compared to other communities I represented in addressing some of these issues. So the timing of this is perfect as we look at some coastal resiliency issues and some seawall issues that we're moving forward on. I appreciated kind of the walk down memory lane and the reminder of how this program came about, and I felt for a minute, I thought about the quote from Giselle when she talked about Tom Brady can't catch the passes he throws, but I feel like we're catching a pass that we threw a few years ago now, and seeing the program actually bear fruit. I know that it will bear fruit. So again, I appreciate the partnership, as Secretary Beaton mentioned, that we have at the municipal level in the Baker administration. I've found it to be great across all secretariats, and it's been a huge help to us in Weymouth on a number of fronts, and this is just another one that we greatly appreciate. So happy to visit the district representative, and I want to come back again sometime when I'm not wearing a tie. So thank you very much.
I second that. Next time we're in flip-flops, all right?
Okay,
All right.
sounds good. You just let me know when.
All right. And finally, our last speaker. When we talk, we hear a lot about partnerships here as we went through the presentation. And this next partnership for us at EEA is one that is truly special on all levels, all our agencies, all of our departments. There are certain organizations that step up and truly aren't looking for anything other than to be true partners to advance a common cause. And we're very, very, very fortunate to have such great partners here in Massachusetts. And the next individual is from the very organization that I think when called upon time and time again, this team steps up and helps us along the way, no matter what the issue, no matter what the cause. And we are truly thankful for that partnership. And that individual is Mr. Wayne Klockner from the Nature Conservancy. Wayne?
Thanks, and I must say that it's an honor and a privilege to be with folks, such august folks who recognize the facts. Climate change is real, the impacts are being felt, and the Baker-Polito administration is leading the nation, if not the world, in terms of a proactive program to begin to address it. We truly, at the Nature Conservancy, believe that the administration here in Massachusetts is leading the nation, at least, in its two-pronged approach to addressing climate change: adaptation and mitigation. Adaptation to help manage the unavoidable, mitigation to help us avoid the unmanageable. The MVP program, the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program, will help communities manage the unavoidable impacts of climate change by enhancing safety, avoiding costs, and conserving natural resources. A triple bottom line win in our view. It's truly a national model, and already the Conservancy is working here in Massachusetts. My staff are working with colleagues in 10 other states about how it might be applied, this approach, in those states. So already the eyes of the nation are turning here. MVP will provide communities with technical assistance to use proven bottom-up stakeholder process known as the Community Resilience Building, which we and others have developed, tested, and applied already to help identify and address economic, social, and environmental challenges. We hope that through this program, the communities that are the recipients of grants today will be encouraged to consider nature-based solutions among the array of solutions to address the impacts of climate change. The Conservancy and its partners have worked in the Taunton River watershed for over 15 years applying nature-based solutions to better manage flooding, improve public safety, and improve water quality. We've collaborated with municipalities, with SERPED, and other conservation organizations on nature-based solutions, such as restoring floodplains and removing obsolete dams. And we hope that work can continue under this program. We'll continue to collaborate with the administration to ensure robust funding for the communities to follow through on their plans. We proudly endorse the Baker-Polito administration's efforts on climate change. I look forward to continued collaboration. And I'm particularly proud to be a resident of the Bay State today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wayne. And on that, we will formally conclude our speaking program. Thank you all very much for taking the time to be here with us today. Thank you to the town of Wareham for hosting us. Thank you to our legislators for hosting us and being here with us. We really do appreciate this team effort. We have a long road ahead on this issue, but because of your collaboration and your partnership, we're going to be that much more successful. So enjoy the beautiful day, and thank you all very much. And for everyone who is here representing a community, I ask that you please come forward, and we'd like to take a group photo. Right, Meg?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.